Salvete, Maria et Monica. I'm just catching you up with Latin from today, since we had class. We actually had class cut a little short because we had confession today in the afternoon. But anyway, this is kind of an easy lesson, and it also serves as a little bit of review if any of that is needed. So this will be a good one. What I'm gonna have you do is just copy down the notes that I'm sharing here in the video. And if you don't have your notebook at home, that's okay. If you do, put those notes down in your notebook. If you don't, just do it on another sheet of paper and then maybe transfer them over. It won't be a lot of notes to transfer if you have to end up rewriting. Excuse me. So what I'm going to have you do first is make a chart for lex legis. Now, you don't see the nominative, genitive, accusative labels on this chart, but it would be a good idea if you included them. And so I did not do that, but if you could do nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative when you make your charts, that would be most helpful. And lex legis is the word law, and you had to decline that on your last test. So on this upcoming test, the one that you'll have next, you're going to do that same verb again. Okay, so 10 points out of the test are going to be exactly what you've already done. And then you're also going to decline another word that is also a third declension word right next to it. And it's pars partus. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do I know whether words get declined like lex legis, which is law, or like pars partus, which means part? So a new word I'm going to give you, and this is one of your vocab words, and I'm going to decline it fully right here in your notes, okay? So I'm going to go through and put these endings on, and as I do, what I want you to be looking for in the video is what is different. What is different about the way this word is declined from the way this word is declined? Now, obviously, lex versus pars, they're both in the various column, so that's not going to count. This is lex and this is pars. Well, they're both various. So, but I'm talking about the rest of the endings that actually are supposed to have a certain set of endings, right? Various, is, ema. So what's the difference? Okay. Oop. It's going to take me a minute here if I'm making them all. All right. What do you see the differences? So it might be a little hard because if you're looking at just the blue, you're going to see ace, ace, ibis, a, and you're looking and you're saying, well, they're all the same. Well, the one difference is this I, and I didn't color it, so that was kind of tricky. If I'd colored it, it would have been a little easier. So you have eum as your ending, but the stem of this word, part is the stem, but it has this I in it. These are called I stems. So words like pars partus are called I stems. And all an I stem means is that in the genitive plural, that's what this second one down is, right? On the right-hand side, in the genitive plural, it doesn't just get it gets ium. In fact, you could color it blue, I guess. It doesn't matter. If that helps you remember it, if that helps it stand out, it gets ium. And so certain third declension words, when we decline them, they're going to get ium and not just in the genitive singular. And you're going to get some of those in your notes in this next set of vocab, okay? But the first thing is, how do we know when we see a new word, a new third declension word, how do we know whether we're going to decline it like lex legis with just an or whether we're going to decline it like pars partus with an ium? That's the question. And so I have two answers for you. So I've got an A and I've got a B. And so I'd like you to put these in your notes. I'd like you to actually write in your notes, decline a new vocab word like pars partus if A, B, and C. Or sorry, A and B. And then we're going to look at some new vocab and we're going to determine whether we will decline it like lex legis or whether we will decline it like pars partus, okay? So here's the first one. Decline a new vocab word like pars partus if the nominative singular and the genitive singular, so those two first forms that we see, like if we were to look up a word in a dictionary, okay? So this is the dictionary form, lex legis, pars partus. It's just showing the nominative and then it's showing the genitive, the nominative singular and then the genitive singular. Okay, if the nominative singular and the genitive singular have the same number of syllables. And so let's see, does pars partus have the same number of syllables? Pars, one syllable. Partus, two syllables. They don't have the same number of syllables. Well, then it must be whatever this reason B is. That's probably the reason that we decline pars partus the way we do, a little differently with the ium. Okay, so that is one way. The second way is if the stem, stop right there for a second. What is the stem? The stem of the word is the part that you get when you look at the genitive singular and you take off the ending. So in this case, the is. So our stem is leg, okay? We don't say that lex is our stem because if lex was our stem, then the way we would decline this word is lex, lexis, lexi, lexem, lexe. But we don't say that. We say legis, legi, legem, lege, because we get our stem from the genitive singular, and that's why everything else starts with that. So if the stem ends in two consonants, which are non-vowels, and so if we look at pars partus, our stem is part, and part ends in an RT. It does end in two non-vowels. And so reason B is why we decline pars partus the way we do, putting an ium in the genitive singular, in the genitive plural. Okay, I want to give you a few, these are our only two reasons, okay? I'm going to give you an example of another new vocab word. Colis, colis. Colis, colis is a little weird because the nominative and the genitive singular are the same, just for that word, right? When you get various, that various could mean the same as the genitive singular, all right? There's no rule that says it has to be different, right? So colis is hill. So colis, colis, hill, And so I'd like you to write this into your notebook as well, the new vocab. And if we look at colus colus, there's two reasons why colus is an I stem. So I kind of gave the answer away. It is an I stem. It is declined like pars partus. Okay. The first reason is that the nominative singular and the genitive singular, so these two things, have the same number of syllables. Colus, colus. They both have two syllables. And so therefore it's an I stem. But there's another reason. The other reason is that the stem ends in a double L, two consonants. So it would be an I stem even if they had different numbers of syllables. So sometimes words can be an I stem for more than one reason, for both reasons. But it only takes one reason for it to be an I stem. So if a word had the same number of syllables in the nominative and genitive, but it didn't end in two consonants, it would still be an I stem, or vice versa, it would still be an I stem. Okay? All right, so I'm going to give you your next vocab word here from this new vocab. So pars partus is, let's go ahead and add pars partus. That you don't have to put them in any particular order. Pars partus means part. And of course, we know why pars partus is an I stem, because it ends in two consonants. They have different numbers of syllables, though. Okay. And then number 3. The next word is hostis, hostis, which means enemy. And that's kind of weird. That's another example of one that has the same word, not only the same number of syllables, but the same word as the nominative singular and the genitive singular. So we know that when we decline hostis, hostis, which means enemy, we're gonna decline it like pars partus. So if we needed to say of the enemies, because that's the genitive plural, right, of the somethings, we would say hostium. We wouldn't say hostum by adding just um to the stem. We would say hostium. And the reason is because they have the same number of syllables. Hostis, hostis. Okay? So let's take a look at the next vocab word. The next vocab word is gens, gentis. And then our last one is caedes, caedes. All right, so that's just so I could stop flipping back in my book and looking. All right, gens gentis. Gens gentis means tribe or like group, or can be nation, tribe or nation, nation of people. And so A says nominative singular and genitive singular have the same number of syllables. Gens, gentis. So far, it's not an I stem. B says if the stem ends in two consonants, and we don't want to look at our NS because that's not really technically our stem, is it? We want to look at the genitive singular minus the IS. So that's that. NT would be our stem. Gent would be our stem. And gent ends in NT. That is two consonants. So this is an I stem too. And then here's something that I think you're going to know. Okay. What is gens, gentis going to be in the nominative plural? Well, we're going to put our stem, gent, and then because this is an I stem, we want to put not just but we want to put and it's going to be gentium. Or as we call it in ecclesiastical pronunciation, gentium. Does that ring a bell to you, Monica and Mary? In fact, lumen gentium, because lumen gentium, that's something that I'm pretty sure you've heard before. So that's the dogmatic constitution of the church. It was promulgated during Vatican II. So lumen gentium, it means light of the nations. In English, we kind of say light to the nations, but technically it means light of the nations because it's a genitive plural, right? So just think, we don't say lumen gentum. So gens gentis obviously is an I stem because it has the ium at the end, not just the So, all right, and then the last one, kaides, kaides. And this word means, oops, I didn't put the meaning. It means slaughter. So these, I believe, are on page 44 in your book. They are on page 44. Good. I'm getting familiar with my book. I'm memorizing the book. All right. So kaides is a slaughter, and kaides is of the slaughter. And it looks like the stem is kaid, so the last two letters are ed. So it's not reason B. The stem does not end in two consonants, but kaides, kaides, three each. So guess what? Kaides is an I stem verb. It's going to be declined like pars partus. So that means if we ever needed to say of the slaughters, we would say caedium, caedium, not just caedum. Right. And so we're almost done with this lesson. So the first lesson is is just being able to tell whether a word will be declined like lex legis or like pars partus. The second piece of this, though, is just a review of how you can tell the gender of a word. Okay, so at the beginning of the third declension, you were told that nouns of all three genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter, exist in the third declension. So the third declension has all of those, okay? So you might be thinking, maybe lex legis, maybe all words that are declined like lex legis are one gender, words that are declined like pars partus are another gender. But that's not the case. Words that are neuter in the third declension, we haven't gotten to those yet, okay? And that's not going to be hard. Because what you already know about neuter words like bellum, belly from the second declension, you know that the nominative and the accusative, they match each other. They're the same as each other. You know that the neuter uses a's for plurals, like, for example, bella means wars, or oppida means towns. And that's going to be the exact same in the third declension. So it's not going to be much harder at all. But what's the deal with the genders of these words that are like lex legis and words that are like pars partus? So both masculine and feminine words can be declined like lex legis, and both masculine and feminine words can be declined like pars partus. So it doesn't really have anything to do with gender. Okay, so let's take a look at the same vocab list, and let's just do a review of how we tell if it's masculine or feminine. Remember, none of these are going to be neuter because we haven't seen those yet, and those are declined a little differently. Okay, just like neuters are declined a little differently in the second declension. All right, so let's take a look. Pars partus. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow those rules again, the Sachs rule, the error rule, the Lancet rule, and the natural gender rule. And so remember, the natural gender rule is the first rule we want to think about. The natural gender rule just says, does this word mean something that is typically a male? And if the answer is yes, well, then it's a masculine word. Or does this word mean something that's typically a female? So like the word for wife, for example, it doesn't matter whether it follows the Sachs rule or the error rule or the Lancet rule or any other rule. It means wife. Wives are females, so it's a feminine word. End of story, right? Or sailor. It doesn't matter that nauta ends in an A, right? It doesn't matter it's a first declension word, and most first declension words are feminine. Nauta is a sailor. Sailors are men, and so nauta is a masculine word. End of story. Okay, so the first rule we want to think about is the natural gender rule. Pars partus means part. Is a part a male or a female? No, not really. So now I want to go to my Sachs rule, error rule. So Sachs rule just says words that end in S, O, or X for their nominative. And pars ends in S, so pars partus is a feminine word. Okay, colus also ends in S. There's no natural gender to hill. So colus, feminine word. How about this one? Hostis, enemy. Guess what? Most enemies, even though today enemies could be males or females, I suppose, but we're not talking about today. We're talking about in Roman times, and enemies typically meant a male. So hostis is a masculine word. End of story. Gens gentis. Now, this is a triburnation. You can't really say it's a natural gender, right? Because it's made of several people. So we want to go to our rules. Sachs rule tells us it's a feminine word. Caides, Sachs rule again. So the error rule just means if it ends in ER or if it ends in OR. So error or. Like pater. I guess pater would be masculine anyway, because pater means father. But pater would be an example of a word like that. Okay, so we got a lot of feminine words here, unless there's natural gender involved. Hostis. Okay, so that was just a little review. I want to show you what the homework is for tonight, and then do the first couple. All right. Let's see. Exercise 44 is the homework. And what it has is pars hostium as its original. So what I'd like you to do is rewrite what it has in the original. Okay. So don't just write the answer. Write what the book has, and also your answer. And these are short. There's only 11 of these, and I'm going to do like 2 of them with you. Okay. So pars hostium. Okay. And have your vocab open as you do this, because it's going to be using the new vocab right from the list. All right. So pars. All right. I just did that. Pars. Oh, that's the nominative of part. So it just means part. Okay. So part hostium. So what I want to do is I want to locate the word that it's coming from, that hostium is a part of, and it's hostis. It's got the same stem. All right. So hostium, where do I see? Oh, eum. Oh, because hostis is one of those I stems that is declined like pars partus. So this is genitive plural. It means of the, what was that word again? Enemies, of the enemies. So part of the enemies. Pars hostium means part of the enemies. Okay. And so the directions here say, tell what forms the nouns are, and then translate. So pars was in the nominative. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is perhaps just under the word, maybe a little smaller. you can just do nom. And let's do that nominative singular. Well, let's put them under the Latin words. Pars is in the nominative singular. There we go. Maybe I need to make it a little smaller. And this one's in the genitive plural. Okay. And so that is what number 1 would look like. Let's do number 2. Again, on page 44. Nope, page 45. Propter caedem gentium. Okay, propter caedem gentium. Okay, so propter is not a noun, so it doesn't need an answer down here. It doesn't need us to tell what case it is. But propter is a preposition. Propter is a preposition that takes the accusative, and I learned that, and so caedem is going to be accusative. And it's accusative singular. And then gentium, oh, there's that eum ending again. Well, if that eum ending was genitive plural, guess what? It's still genitive plural. Okay, and propter, we don't need to put anything there. It's a preposition. It means, but we do need to know what it means because we have to translate it, right? Propter caedem gentium, on account of the caedem. Well, let me look at my vocab and see what caedem means. Caedes is slaughter. So on account of the slaughter, gentium, of the nations. Okay, so this is what your homework should look like. And again, there's only 11 of these. So it might mean that you have to take a look back to see a preposition, if the little sentence chunk that you have has a preposition in it, like I might have had to do with propter, in order to find out that it means on account of. But that is what you're doing. And so hopefully that was a pretty easy lesson. And this is due on Friday for you guys. So hope to see you back soon. Take care.